Scenes of celebration in the Syrian capital after rebel forces seized the city in a shock offensive that ended one of the Middle East's longest and bloodiest civil wars.
حلم إلا شوي، حلم إلا شوي، بده حدا ينقذنا الحلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. والله فرحة لا توصف، فرحة لا توصف للشعب، الحمد لله محبة بتقول ناطريننا من زمان يعني الحمد لله الشعب حتى نحررهم من رجس هالنظام هذا الحمد لله.
For 13 years, Syria was trapped in a grinding civil war that left more than 300,000 dead and displaced millions more. Then, 2 weeks of rapid gains by a coalition of opposition forces toppled Syria's brutal regime and sent ousted President Bashar al-Assad fleeing abroad. Here's how it happened. Rebel groups led by the Islamist militia Hayat Tahrir al-Sham seized the northern city of Aleppo. The group, also known as HTS, was formed at the start of the Syrian civil war in 2011 as a direct affiliate of the terrorist group al-Qaeda. HTS has since cut ties with al-Qaeda and adopted a more moderate tone under leader Abu Muhammad al-Golani. The rebels' rapid advance on Syria's second largest city sent Assad's forces fleeing south towards Damascus, with opposition fighters giving chase. Assad launched a counterattack on rebel-held territory with the backing of Russian fighter jets. Iran, another key ally of Assad, promised to help his regime regain control of a growing swatch of northern Syria. But with Russia and Iran each tied down in conflicts with Ukraine and Israel respectively, neither offered significant support to the Assad regime. Opposition forces pushed on toward Hama, another key city on the road to Damascus. Rebels took control of Hama after days of fierce fighting and despite Russian airstrikes that slowed their advance. The Syrian military pulled back to the outskirts of the city as rebels celebrated in the city's main square. HTS leader al-Golani issued a statement declaring victory in Hama, a city that remained in Assad's control throughout much of the civil war.
الحمد وشكر لك يا رب. اليوم تم تحرير مدينة حماة على يد أبطال المجاهدين من قبل عصابات الأسد المجرمة التي هجرت الشعب منذ 13 عام. واليوم الحمد لله الأبطال المجاهدين قادمون إليها والآن بإذن الله لن نقف إلى الشام. بإذن الله سنحرر كل المناطق من عصابات الأسد.
Turkey, which backed militias fighting alongside HTS, called on Assad to open a dialogue with opposition forces, claiming that his refusal to talk with Turkish-backed groups sowed the seeds of this sudden show of force. In Hama, rebels began to release prisoners from the city's prisons, freeing many who were detained during Assad's repressive regime. Some had been imprisoned 40 years ago by his father's crackdown on critics in the early 1980s. Political prisoners, long held captive, were seen embracing their families in tearful reunions as rebel groups continued to push south toward Homs. On the opposite end of the country, a sudden uprising in the city of Dara, near the Jordanian border, took control of the city. Emboldened by Assad's retreat in the north, residents in Dara toppled statues of the authoritarian leader and defaced his portraits that once adorned walls throughout the city. Homs, a strategic city halfway between Aleppo and Damascus, fell to rebel forces. HTS leaders called on Syrian soldiers to defect, as residents there also knocked down statues in the city square.
إخواني الكرام، نعيش في اللحظات الأخيرة لتحرير مدينة حمص بإذن الله تعالى. هذا حدث تاريخي الذي سيفصل بين الحق والباطل، ونوصي إخوان المجاهدين كما أوصيناهم في السابق بأن يعطفوا على الناس، ومن ترك سلاحه فيؤمنوه ومن فر فلا يدركوه.
تغيير النظام أعطيناه الأمان، والحمد لله أن بقبضة الإدارة العسكرية، إدارة رد العدوان، ونحن هلا حاليا على طريق حمص الشام.
The seizure of Homs moved opposition forces within 200 kilometers of the Syrian capital Damascus. Rebel forces made rapid gains in Damascus as the Assad regime lost control of the city. Assad was nowhere to be found as opposition fighters entered his palatial estate. Residents began to tour the palace, looting art and furniture from the building's gilded halls. Prisoners held at the city's notorious Sednaya prison, known as a place where opponents of the Assad regime were held and tortured, were freed by rebel fighters.
حرة ما عفو الله الحمد لله. انت وين هلا؟ انا الاحمر سيدنا الاحمر من وين حضرتك؟
HTS leader al-Golani appeared at the city's Umayyad mosque and declared victory over the Assad regime.
هذا النصر يا اخواني جديد للأمة الإسلامية بأكملها. هذا النصر يا اخواني تاريخ جديد للمنطقة. كم تلافينا من مخاطر. ترك سوريا تركها مزرعة للأطماع الإيرانية. نشر فيها الطائفية، أثار فيها الفساد.
Assad has fled to Moscow, according to Russian state media. The report said the ousted leader and his family have been granted asylum. Syrians at home and abroad took to the streets to celebrate Assad's fall and the promise of a new Syria.
أنا أم ل7 شهداء، بنات وصبيان، حرق لي إياهم حرق الله يحرقوا إن شاء الله بنار جهنم. مثل ما حرقوا. الحمد لله رب العالمين، متحمد الله نحن، لله نزلوا وحرقوه حرق بإذن الله بإذن واحد أحد.
Like it's unbelievable. Like I'm still like not understanding. Like he actually got out of the country. Like he flew out, and Syria's free, liberated again. So now it's our time to rebuild it and then get a new country.
Millet sağda çok mutluyum. Sağda burada değil. Sağda burada değil. Yurt dışında, Ukrayna'da, burada da Suriye içinde bu Esad zalimden ondan biz kurtulduk. Çok mutluyuz. Çok şükür. Allah herkese nasip etsin. Bütün diktatörler var ya, düşsünler. Aynı Esad gibi düştüğü zamanda düşsünler inşallah.